Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to be diving into Argentina.
Oh, yeah.
It's a country that's been making headlines, right?
Yes.
With this dramatic political and economic shift. I mean, this is a nation that went from like a serious economic powerhouse
Hmm.
to kind of a cautionary tale.
Right.
And now, with the election of this, radical libertarian president, maybe it's a beacon of hope for libertarianism.
Yeah, that's right. We're going to be looking at Argentina's history from its, golden age to like hyperinflation and all that.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll try to analyze all the factors that kind of led to Milo's, kind of surprising victory.
Yeah, I mean, we've got like a whole stack of articles and research here.
Yeah.
Plus, I know you've got some personal insights to share.
I do.
And I think our mission today is to really like understand,
Yeah.
how a country that's been steeped in decades of Peronism could take such a sharp turn.
Right.
I think you might be surprised by what we uncover about human resilience and just like what lengths people will go to when they're faced with economic turmoil.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a fascinating case study in political and economic change.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of lessons here that resonate far beyond Argentina's borders.
Okay, so let's rewind the clock a little bit.
Okay.
Early 20th century Argentina.
Yeah.
What was the scene like back then?
Well, you gotta imagine a country just like brimming with opportunity, attracting immigrants from Europe,
Okay.
a lot like the U.S. at the time.
Oh, wow.
Argentina had a really robust economy fueled by agriculture industry.
Okay.
Its GDP per capita, was rivaling Canada and Australia.
Really?
They even had a thriving film industry,
Wow.
giving Hollywood a run for its money in Latin America.
That's hard to believe. I mean,
Yeah.
thinking about that, that's the same Argentina that later struggled with like hyperinflation
Right.
and economic collapse. Like what
Crazy.
like caused that kind of drastic change?
Right. Well, I think the seeds of that change were sown with the rise of Juan Perón in the 1940s.
Okay.
He was this charismatic figure
Yeah.
who really captivated the masses with his blend of nationalism,
Okay.
social justice rhetoric,
Yeah.
and, a touch of, well, let's call it cult of personality.
Peronism, I've heard that term thrown around, but I got to be honest, I'm a little fuzzy on like the details.
Yeah.
What does it actually stand for?
Well, think of it as a political ideology that puts the state at the center of everything.
Okay.
It emphasizes, social programs, nationalization of industries,
Okay.
and, strong central leadership.
Okay.
Perón was known for his populist tactics, like that famous story of promising supporters a left shoe
Wait, really?
before the election and the right shoe if they voted him into office.
Oh, wow. That's quite a campaign strategy.
Yeah.
It sounds like Peronism had like a really profound impact on Argentine society.
Huge.
But how did it contribute to the country's economic decline?
Well, you see, while Perón's policies were initially super popular,
Yeah.
they created the system
Yeah.
that was heavily reliant on government intervention
Right.
and spending.
Right.
And that, coupled with protectionist policies,
Yeah.
ultimately led to economic instability.
Oh. Okay.
It's a classic example of how good intentions
Yeah.
can sometimes have unintended consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So imagine you're an Argentinian living through this period of like economic turmoil.
Right.
What does everyday life look like when hyperinflation takes hold?
Well, actually, I can speak to that from personal experience.
Oh, okay.
My mother, she had to flee Argentina in 1989 because of hyperinflation.
Wow.
I actually grew up in Norway because of it.
Wow.
My father, he owned 2 restaurants in Argentina.
Yeah.
Had a pretty comfortable life, but it all just vanished
Really?
practically overnight. Yeah.
Wow, that must have been incredibly difficult for your family.
It was.
I mean, it's hard to even grasp the reality of hyperinflation even when you read about it
Yeah.
in history books.
Yeah.
What was it like for your mother to leave everything behind and start over in a new country?
Well, imagine this. You're watching your savings evaporate,
Yeah.
prices skyrocketing every day.
Oh, wow.
Struggling to afford even like the basic necessities.
Yeah.
My mother had to re-educate herself,
Wow.
adapt to a new culture,
Right.
and raise me all alone. So
That's a testament to human resilience.
it was tough.
But I'm curious, like, how did people in Argentina cope with such extreme economic instability?
Yeah.
Were there like any unique survival strategies?
Oh, people had to get creative, let me tell you.
Okay.
Imagine using olive oil or bricks as currency.
Wait, what?
Simply because they held their value better than the peso,
Wow.
the rapidly depreciating peso.
Wow.
These complex black markets emerged to exchange pesos for US dollars.
Oh, wow.
Because of the government's capital controls.
The BRICS as currency. That's a powerful image.
Yeah.
It really drives home the point of how desperate the situation was.
It was a desperate time.
Yeah.
It was a time of immense hardship and uncertainty.
Yeah.
Many skilled professionals, they just left the country,
Yeah.
seeking better opportunities elsewhere.
Wow.
And that brain drain that further weakened Argentina's economy
Right.
and its social fabric.
Wow. And then there's that infamous El Corralito of 2001.
Oh, yeah.
Can you explain, what happened and how it impacted the Argentine people?
Well, El Corralito, that was a desperate measure taken by the government to
Yeah.
prevent a total financial meltdown.
Okay.
They froze bank accounts,
Whoa.
essentially trapping people's savings.
Oh, no.
Imagine waking up one morning and you can't access your own money.
That sounds like a recipe for chaos and distrust.
Oh, it was.
Yeah.
It led to widespread protests, riots,
Yeah.
and it just eroded public trust in the government even further.
Right.
And the financial system. El Corralito was like a culmination of decades of economic mismanagement
Right.
and a turning point in Argentina's history.
Yeah.
It created the conditions for a radical shift
Right.
in the political landscape, and that paved the way for someone like Javier Milei.
Okay, so let's talk about Mileis.
Yeah,
He seemed to appear out of nowhere,
he did.
going from an outspoken economist on TV debates
Right.
to the president in just a few years.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What's the story behind his, meteoric rise?
Milei, he was a master communicator. He really was. He had this captivating personality, this wild-eyed energy that just drew people in.
Yeah.
I remember watching him on TV debates back in 2018,
Yeah.
railing against socialist policies and advocating for free markets.
Right.
He was like a breath of fresh air
Yeah.
in this political landscape, dominated by the same old,
Yeah.
tired rhetoric.
Yeah, the same old stuff. He also had that whole chainsaw economics thing going on.
Oh, yeah.
Bringing a chainsaw to TV debates to symbolize cutting government spending.
Right.
That's a hard image to forget.
It's brilliant, isn't it?
It is.
He understood the power of symbolism and sound bites,
Yeah.
especially in the age of social media.
Yeah.
He knew how to connect with people,
Yeah.
particularly younger generations,
Yeah.
that were just disillusioned with traditional politics.
Right.
He even used, memes and internet humor to spread his message.
That's smart.
Yeah.
So beyond the theatrics,
Yeah.
what were Milei's core policies?
Okay.
What did he promise the Argentine people?
Well, he ran on a platform of radical change, right?
Okay.
His three main pillars were curbing inflation,
Okay.
tackling rampant insecurity,
Right.
and dramatically reducing the government's role in the economy.
Wow.
He promised to slash spending,
Okay.
deregulate industries,
Yes.
and empower individuals to take control of their own lives.
Okay.
Essentially, he was proposing a complete overhaul of the system that had failed Argentina for so long.
Right.
Yeah,
It was a bold vision, a complete departure from the Peronist model.
it was.
But did he actually manage to implement any of these radical policies once he took office?
He did, and surprisingly quickly.
Oh, really?
Within his first 9 months, he achieved some significant wins.
Like what?
For example, Rosario,
Okay.
a city notorious for its crime rate,
No.
saw a 70% reduction in homicides after he increased police presence
Wow. Yeah.
and implemented tougher law enforcement strategies.
Okay.
Cocaine busts surged by 400%,
Really?
indicating a crackdown on drug trafficking.
Wow. Those are impressive results.
They are.
Sounds like he wasn't afraid to take decisive action.
No, he wasn't.
What about his economic reforms?
Yeah.
Did he actually deliver on his promise to shrink the government and deregulate the economy?
He absolutely did.
Okay.
One of his most impactful moves was deregulating the housing market.
Okay. Interesting.
This led to a remarkable 22% increase in housing supply, which had a direct impact on affordability.
So did rents and mortgage costs actually go down as a result?
They did.
Oh.
And quite significantly.
Wow.
Rental prices dropped by 26%,
Okay.
and mortgage costs fell by 30%.
That's something I think we can all relate to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
It was a clear example of how reducing government intervention could have a tangible positive impact
Right.
on people's lives.
Exactly.
Okay, so we're starting to see the potential upside of Milei's approach.
Yeah.
But I'm sure not everyone was happy with these radical changes.
Of course not.
Who were the losers, so
Yeah.
to speak,
Right.
in this new libertarian-leaning Argentina?
Well, as you can imagine, those who benefited from the old system, like government employees
Right.
and union leaders, they
Right.
felt the pinch.
Okay.
Mileis streamlined the bureaucracy,
Right.
leading to job cuts in the public sector.
Okay.
Union power, which had been significant under Peronist rule, was also diminished as regulations were relaxed and industries became more competitive.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Change is always disruptive.
It is.
And there will inevitably be, like, winners and losers.
For sure.
But what about the social programs that Peronism was known for?
Right.
What happened to those under Milei's austerity measures?
That's where things get a bit more complex.
Okay.
And where we start to see the potential downsides of Milei's libertarian approach.
So we've got these social programs that were like a cornerstone of Peronism being scaled back under Milei's watch.
Right.
I imagine that caused some friction.
Yeah, you're right. It caused quite a stir.
Oh,
Milei drastically reduced public spending,
Okay.
arguing that the government just couldn't afford these programs anymore,
Yeah.
and that true economic empowerment comes from individual initiative, not government handouts.
Right.
This obviously impacted, those who relied on these programs, and
Yeah.
it raised concerns about the potential consequences for the most vulnerable in society.
Yeah, that's a valid concern.
It is.
It sounds like that classic debate between collective responsibility and individual freedom.
Exactly.
Something that's been playing out globally for decades, really.
Yeah.
What were the specific arguments against cutting these programs?
Well, critics argued that while some programs might have been inefficient,
Yeah.
they did provide a safety net for millions of Argentinians who were struggling to make ends meet.
Right.
They pointed out that Milei's focus on individual responsibility and free markets kind of ignored systemic inequalities
Yeah.
and the need for social safety nets
Right.
to protect the most vulnerable.
It's a tough balancing act,
It is.
trying to stimulate economic growth while ensuring that the benefits reach all levels of society.
All right, exactly.
Did Maya's supporters offer any counter-arguments to these criticisms?
They did, yeah.
Oh.
They argued that these social programs, while, well-intentioned,
Yeah.
created a culture of dependency
Yep.
and ultimately contributed to Argentina's economic woes. They believed that a truly free market with minimal government interference would lift everyone up in the long run.
That's a hopeful perspective.
It is.
But history has shown that free markets can sometimes exacerbate existing inequalities,
Right.
leading to a concentration of wealth at the top.
Yeah.
What evidence is there to support the idea that this approach would actually benefit everyone in Argentina?
Well, that's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And one that Milei's experiment is trying to answer.
Right.
There are examples from around the world
Right.
where free market policies have indeed led to widespread prosperity.
Yeah.
But there are also examples where they have failed to deliver on their promises.
Right.
It's too early to say definitively
Yeah.
whether Milei's approach will succeed in the long run.
It seems like a high-risk, high-reward situation.
It does.
Let's shift gears for a moment
Okay.
and talk about Milei's personality and leadership style.
Sure.
We know he's charismatic
Yes.
and like a master communicator.
Yeah.
But some have criticized his confrontational approach.
Yeah.
How has this impacted his ability to govern?
Well, his confrontational style has certainly made it difficult to gain support in Congress.
Okay.
He kind of lacks the political maneuvering skills of a seasoned politician.
Yeah.
And often resorts to decrees to
Okay.
bypass opposition.
Yeah.
Which can backfire in the long term, right?
Okay.
By undermining democratic processes.
So there's that tension between his radical vision
Yeah,
and the realities of working within a democratic system.
exactly.
That raises another interesting question. Like, what might happen after Milei's potential 2 terms?
Right.
Could the Peronists just return and undo all his work?
It's definitely a possibility. That's why it's crucial for him to not only implement policies,
Right.
but also cultivate a new generation of leaders
Yeah.
who understand and embrace the principles of economic freedom.
Okay.
Otherwise, his reforms might prove to be fleeting.
Let's delve a little deeper into some of the specific policy areas.
Okay.
We've already touched on housing,
Yeah.
but what about other sectors of the economy?
Right.
How have Milei's reforms impacted industries beyond housing?
Well, one of his key goals has been to attract foreign investment,
Okay.
which is crucial for stimulating economic growth, right?
Right.
He's lowered corporate taxes,
Okay.
and reduced regulations to make Argentina a more attractive destination for investors.
Okay.
There are some early signs of success,
Yeah.
with several international companies expressing interest in expanding their operations in Argentina.
But it's not just about attracting foreign capitals, right?
Right.
What about supporting local businesses and entrepreneurs?
Right.
How has Mileis addressed that aspect of the economy?
He's a big proponent of deregulation
Okay.
and believes that easing the burden on small businesses will unleash their entrepreneurial potential.
Right.
He simplified the process of starting a business
Oh.
and lowered taxes for small and medium-sized enterprises.
Okay, cool.
This has led to a surge in new business registrations.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, that's a promising sign for economic diversification and job creation.
It is.
It sounds like he's trying to create a more dynamic and competitive economy.
He is, yeah.
But what about those who were employed by the government?
Right.
We know he shrunk the bureaucracy,
Yeah.
which must have resulted in job losses.
Yes. There have been, significant layoffs in the public sector,
Okay.
as Mileis has, streamlined ministries and agencies.
Right.
While this is seen as necessary to reduce government waste and inefficiency,
Yeah.
it has undoubtedly created hardship for those who have lost their jobs.
Yeah, of course.
He's argued that these job losses will be offset by growth in the private sector, but that remains to be seen.
It's a reminder that large-scale economic transitions,
Right.
even those with positive long-term goals,
Yeah.
often come with difficult short-term consequences for certain groups.
They do.
What about the impact on social mobility? Has Mileis' approach created more opportunities for people to improve their economic standing?
That's a complex issue.
Yeah.
On the one hand,
Yeah.
his focus on education reform,
Right.
particularly vocational training,
Okay.
aims to equip individuals
Yeah.
with the skills needed to succeed in a more competitive job market.
Okay.
This could potentially lead to increased social mobility,
Right.
particularly for those from disadvantaged backgrounds.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Education and skills development are crucial for individual empowerment
Right.
and economic advancement.
Exactly.
But have we seen any concrete evidence of this increased social mobility so far? It seems too early to tell.
It's definitely too early to draw any definitive conclusions.
Right.
While there's, anecdotal evidence of individuals benefiting from the new opportunities created by Mileis reforms,
Okay.
it's too soon to assess the broader impact on social mobility.
Yeah.
It's something that will need to be studied and analyzed. Yeah.
Over a longer period.
So we've got a lot of moving pieces here.
We do.
Economic reforms, social programs, political maneuvering,
Yeah.
cultural shifts.
It's a lot.
It's like trying to solve a multidimensional puzzle.
It is.
What do you think is the most important factor in determining whether Mileis' experiment will ultimately succeed or fail?
I think the key lies in public perception and support.
Okay.
Mileis was elected on a wave of dissatisfaction with the status quo,
Yeah.
a desire for radical change.
Right.
If he can convince the Argentine people that his approach is delivering tangible improvements to their lives,
Yeah.
he might be able to overcome the political and economic challenges ahead.
So it all comes down to whether people feel like they're actually benefiting from these radical changes.
Yes,
They see
yes.
their lives improving.
Right.
They might be more willing to tolerate the short-term pain and uncertainty.
But if they don't see those improvements, well, then history suggests they might be tempted to return to their familiar comfort of Peronism,
Right.
even if it ultimately leads them back down the same path of economic instability.
That's precisely the dilemma
Yeah.
facing Argentina.
Right.
And in many ways, the world at large.
Yeah, it is.
It's a fascinating and crucial case study
Yeah.
in the ongoing struggle between different visions
Right.
for society, the role of government, and the pursuit of economic freedom.
It feels like Argentina is at like a crossroads,
It does.
a pivotal moment that could determine its trajectory for years to come.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that political and economic change, it's rarely a smooth, linear process.
Right.
It's messy, unpredictable, full of unexpected twists and turns.
Absolutely.
But I mean, that's what makes it so fascinating to observe and analyze,
It is fascinating.
wouldn't you say?
Absolutely. Argentina is like a living laboratory for economic and political experimentation. It's a microcosm of the global struggle between different ideologies,
Yeah.
different visions for the future,
Right.
and the outcome of Mileis' experiment.
Right.
It could have ripple effects.
Yeah.
far beyond Argentina's borders.
Okay, so let's put on our prognosticator hats for a moment.
Okay.
What are some of the potential scenarios
Okay.
that could unfold in Argentina over the next few years?
Okay.
Paint us a picture of what a successful outcome might look like.
Okay. So in a best case scenario,
Yeah.
Mileis reforms would lay the foundation for sustained economic growth and stability.
Okay.
We'd see, inflation under control,
Right.
foreign investment pouring in, and a noticeable improvement in
Yeah.
the standard of living.
Okay.
For most Argentinians,
Wow.
imagine, like a revitalized Argentina,
Yeah.
a hub of innovation and entrepreneurship, attracting talent and capital from around the world.
That's a compelling vision.
It is.
It's the kind of transformation that many countries dream of achieving.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Yeah.
let's be realistic. There are also potential pitfalls, right?
Always.
What could derail Milei's libertarian experiment
Okay.
and send Argentina back down a familiar path of instability?
Well, I think one of the biggest risks is that the short-term pain outweighs the long-term gains.
Okay.
If people don't see tangible improvements in their lives quickly enough,
Right.
they might lose patience
Yeah.
and turn against Milei's reforms.
Yeah.
And as we discussed,
Yeah.
the ever-present shadow of Peronism looms large.
Right.
It's deeply entrenched in Argentine culture,
Yeah.
and it could easily resurface if Milei falters.
So public perception is crucial.
It is.
Milei needs to convince people that his approach is working,
Right.
that it's worth enduring some short-term hardship for the promise of a brighter future.
Absolutely.
It's a delicate balancing act.
It is.
But what about external factors?
Okay.
Argentina isn't an island.
Right.
It's part of a global economic system.
Of course.
How could global events impact Milei's chances of success?
That's a critical point.
Yeah.
A global recession,
Right.
a sudden spike in energy prices,
Yeah.
or even a major geopolitical event, right?
Yeah.
These could throw a wrench into Milei's plans.
Yeah.
He's navigating
Yeah.
a complex and interconnected world,
Right.
and his success is not entirely within his control.
So there's a lot of uncertainty, a
Yeah.
lot of variables at play.
Absolutely.
But even if Milei's experiment doesn't fully succeed,
Right.
even if it's, just a partial victory or a temporary shift,
Yeah.
what lessons can other countries learn
Okay.
from Argentina's experience?
All right.
Why should someone listening in the UK, the US, or elsewhere
Yeah.
care about what's happening in Argentina?
Argentina's story offers valuable insights into the challenges and opportunities of economic reform.
Right.
It highlights the importance of public buy-in,
Yeah.
the need for clear communication,
Yeah.
and the potential pitfalls
Right.
of radical change without adequate safety nets.
Okay.
It also serves as a reminder that there are alternative models
Right.
to the status quo.
Yeah.
That different approaches to governance and economic policy are possible.
It's a reminder that the world is constantly evolving,
It is.
that political and economic systems are not static.
Right.
Argentina's experiment, regardless of its ultimate outcome,
Yeah.
encourages us to question assumptions,
Yeah.
to explore new ideas,
Right.
and to engage in thoughtful debate about the kind of future we want to create.
It's a reminder that we as individuals have a role to play in shaping that future.
Yeah.
We can choose to be passive observers
Yeah.
or active participants. We can choose to be informed, engaged citizens who contribute to the conversation
Yeah.
and demand better outcomes
Right.
from our leaders.
So in a sense, Argentina is a microcosm of the choices we face globally.
Yeah.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of a better future
Right.
requires courage, creativity,
Yeah.
and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
Absolutely.
And
Oh, yeah.
ultimately,
Yeah.
it's up to each of us to decide what kind of world we want to live in
Right.
and to work towards making that vision a reality.
That's a great point.
So Argentina is a microcosm of the choices we face globally.
It is. Yeah.
It's a reminder that the pursuit of a better future requires courage, creativity,
Absolutely.
and a willingness to challenge conventional wisdom.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And ultimately, it's up to each of us
Yeah.
to decide what kind of world we want to live in
Yeah.
and to work towards making that vision a reality.
Yeah. That's precisely the message we hope you take away from this deep dive into Argentina's libertarian experiment.
Yeah.
It's not just about one country, one leader, or one ideology.
Right.
It's about the ongoing human endeavor to create a more just, prosperous and free society for all.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for joining us on this journey of discovery.
It's been a pleasure.
We hope it sparked your curiosity and inspired you to think more deeply about the challenges and opportunities facing our world.
For sure.
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep learning.